welcome back to our very last cooking episode for this term. We're going to celebrate with my favourite thing in the world, which is chocolate. So the kids are going to join in and help out with this one. It's a great one to get involved in the kitchen. And your challenge is to come up with your own delicious chocolate creation. I'm going with brownies because they're up there with my ultimate favourite dessert. But you're welcome to create your own chocolate-inspired dish. This recipe is from Donna Hay, and we're going to be adding some raspberries in there because they're probably my favourite fruit, and I think it helps to cut the really sweetness of the chocolate with the sourness of the raspberries. So to get started, what's that, Ruth? Berries, yeah. To get started, we're going to chop up our butter. So I've got 250 grams of butter. It's meant to be unsalted. I've only got salted, so that will have to do. But Mila, if you would like to cut this up just into little chunks for me. Make sure you've got your hand up the top and then put it into the saucepan. I'm going to be using a bit of a mixture of dark and milk chocolate. Traditionally, brownies are dark chocolate, but the kids are still learning to like dark chocolate. They probably prefer the sweetness of milk, so I'm going to compromise and do half-half. You can do either. River likes dark chocolate like me, but Ollie's probably more of a milk chocolate fan. So we need 200 grams of chocolate, and we're going to melt that with the butter in the saucepan together. If you didn't want to melt it on the stovetop, you can definitely melt it in the microwave as well. Just be really mindful to cook it in intervals. So put it in the microwave maybe for 2 minutes to start with, and then take it out, give it a stir, and maybe cook it for a minute or 30-second intervals after that, because it can burn really easily in the microwave. And once you've burnt your chocolate, it's not good anymore. All right, so we're going to open this up. And boys, you can help me with this. We're going to break up the chocolate. Make sure your hands are clean. We've just washed them, which is good. So if I give you these bits, if you want to break up the chocolate into little bits, the smaller the chunks are, the quicker it's going to be to melt. So there we go, River. And Ollie, get you to do that bit, and I'll get some milk chocolate out. So if you want to come around there.
It's hard to...
It is hard to snap it. See how you go. If it's too tricky, I'll find another job for you. We'll wash our hands at the end. No licking. I know you're tempted. So there you go. We put those pieces in the saucepan.
No, I get to help.
Great. Thanks, Moo. We've also preheated the oven to 180 degrees, between 160 and 180. We'll see how it goes. If it's cooking too fast, I'll turn the temperature down. We also need to prepare our tin. So I'm just using a sliced tin like this. I'm going to spray it with some cooking spray and then line it with some baking paper, not powder. So do give it a spray over your sink, not on the floor, because it makes your floorboards super slippery. Or tiles. Okay, just a little spray, and then just line it with baking paper. Makes it a lot easier for it to come out. You can help me. Okay, so Ollie, do you want to take this over now to the stove top, and you can melt that for me? All right, while Ollie's melting that, we might get started cracking our eggs. So we need 4 eggs cracked into this jar. So Riv, do you want to crack an egg in there? Okay.
This egg is hard to get
Just wait for Rivy. Yeah, so put your 2 thumbs in there, Riv, and open it up. That's it. Try not to get too much shell in, but if shell gets in, we can scoop it out. Cool.
That's a pretty easy base to get out.
Awesome. There's just a little bit of shell there, so we can, I'll use a spoon. Hopefully it'll come out easily. There we go. If you want to go and wash your hands, you can, and then you can come back if you like. That's it. 2 more, so 4 eggs in total. And once we've cracked them in here, we're going to whisk them up.
The chocolate and the butter is just about all melted now. I'm gonna take it off the heat and let it cool down before we add the eggs in. We're adding vanilla into the recipe because we love vanilla.
Good job.
A lot of vanilla.
Okay, give it a whisk together.
Yeah, that's a lot of vanilla.
So I'm going to transfer my melted chocolate mixture into a different bowl just because it'll help it to cool down quicker because the metal will retain heat. We need to let it cool down so that we don't scramble our eggs when we add the egg mixture to it. Looks delicious. Yeah, scrambled eggs are delicious, but not in brownies.
I think that would look better with white chocolate.
You can. White chocolate ones are called blondies. And they're pretty delicious too. White chocolate and raspberries are a good combo. So while that's all cooling down, we're going to get started with our dry ingredients. So into this bowl, we're going to sift 1 1/3 cup of plain flour, 1/3 cup of cocoa, and a quarter of a teaspoon of baking powder. So just a really small amount. Okay, kids. So do you want to measure, River? I'm going to get you to measure 1 cup. Oh, sorry, 1 cup of flour and add it to here. So it's really important, you can use a spoon to help you too, Riv. It's really important that when you're baking that you do level measurements. You want it to be really accurate. Baking is a science. Otherwise you run the risk of it being too dry.
Or too wet.
True. You don't add enough flour. Yep, it's looking good, Riv. So when you think it's full, you can level it off with a spoon or with your finger so that you've got exactly the right amount. So satisfying. So who knows why we sift?
1, because it takes all of the lumps out.
Yep.
And 2, because it gives air.
Yeah, that's really important when you're baking because you want things to rise up. You don't want a rock cake, so it helps to aerate. You're absolutely correct. So once this is sifted through, we're going to give it a mix with the wooden spoon.
Hagrid makes rock cakes.
Yeah, Hagrid in Harry Potter, you're right. And they don't look that tasty, those rock cakes. So while we were, we paused, we also measured out 1 1/3 cup of brown sugar. So there's a lot of sugar in this recipe. This is definitely a sometimes special treat. Perfect for our camp night. All right, I might get you boys to tip in the sugar here and mix it into the chocolate mixture, okay? And do
This part with my finger. Just tip it upside down.
There we go. You can use the spatula there to give it a mix, Ollie. Okay, maybe give that one a mix for me.
Mix. There's a reason people call me Messy Moo.
Definitely get that from your mum. All right, so our mix should have cooled down enough by now. So now we're going to add in our egg yolk. Oh, sorry, our egg mixture. So River, do you want to tip that one in for me, buddy?
Okay.
So add the egg to the chocolate and give it a mix.
This looks weird. Kind of.
Okay, that should do, Moo. We're also going to measure out 1 1/2 cups of raspberries because we're going to need them at the end. So we've got our dry ingredients are ready. Our wet ingredients are all mixed in together. So it's a matter of incorporating them together now. You want to make sure you use a spatula and scrape out all of that chocolate mixture. You don't want to waste any. The kids are sad because I'm sure they want to lick the bowl at the end. They're hoping that I'll leave some for them. Alright, so mixing, just folding. So when you're folding, you scrape around the side and flip it over. Around the side, flip it over. Because remember, we worked hard to get that air in there. We don't want to get all of it out. So folding is around the sides and flipping it over. Okay. So once it's all mixed, there we go, Riv, you can have a turn. Once it's all mixed, we're going to tip it into our pan. Oh yeah.
Looks delicious.
It does. All right, you want to spread that out. It gets into all the corners.
You can have a new steak.
All right, now the fun part, we get to push in the raspberries. So you want to push some down the bottom and then you want to have some up the top as well. That looks like a lot, but they will sort of get smaller as the water evaporates from them when they're cooking. So there you go. Put the raspberries in and then you can poke them in like that. I'll stand back. I'll let you guys handle this. It's like a good job for kids. So we're going to put these into the oven. And I'm going to check it about 35 minutes because I don't want them to overcook. They could take anywhere from 35 up to 50 minutes. It depends on how thick your tin, like how the size of your tin, and how fast, how your oven works. So always better to check them a little bit ahead of time. So at 35 minutes, you might want to rotate the tin around, and then keep an eye on it. Check them every 5 minutes after that. What you're looking for is it for the top of it to be just set. And when I insert a toothpick into the middle, I'm expecting that it's still going to have some crumbs going to attach to it, because brownies, like I love a fudgy brownie, so I want it to be nice and fudgy. It shouldn't be coming out like wet cake mix though. That means it's too underdone. But it should still have a little bit of the cake mix sticking to the toothpick. But I will show you guys what I mean later on. So I've just gotten the brownie out of the oven. It's taken about almost 50 minutes actually, so a little bit longer than I thought it would. I just turned my oven up because I'm cooking dinner at the same time, so it got a little bit browner than I would have liked up here. But you can see, like around the edges here, it's definitely set because it's springing back, and in the middle here, it's a little bit, you can see it's a little bit softer. But that's what you want, because as it cools, it's going to continue to cook, and then it'll be really fudgy and delicious in the center. So definitely recommend leaving these to cool. You can have them hot if you want to, and delicious served with ice cream, but I reckon it benefits from letting it cool down, and then you can always heat it up again if you wanted to serve it warm for dessert.